Alright, I'm making some food for my plants. Now, this is just something basic and quick that anybody can do at home. And this is I'm not doing AACT, actively aerated compost tea. I'm not doing SST, what's it called? Super sprouted seed tea. I'm gonna use the bubbler. This is just an aquarium bubbler, 5-gallon bucket. This is my RO Buddy system, reverse osmosis, deionized water. I mean, I'm not gonna do the test, but total dissolved solid meter comes in at 0 ppm. Just some basics. It's not highly scientific, but it's just some basics to get as many things as possible on the correct page. Now, I'm going to show you exactly. The reason I put this in there is to oxygenate the water. I'll do it for a short amount of time just to get the oxygen content of the water up. Now, I'll show you now two of the things that I will be using. This company, Nectar for the Gods. This is the Bloom Chaos. It says foliar spray, but I'm going to use it in the feed. It uses kelp extract. And lastly but not least, Medusa's Magic. This is the 252, derived from whatever you feel like reading. So, I don't want to say I'm against bottled nutrients, but it's always better to try and get the stuff from natural sources. Now, somebody can easily mimic the seaweed or the kelp by using stinging nettle and fermenting it. But make sure that if you ferment it, you go as far as aerating it afterwards, so it's not an anaerobic feed, and you can go as far as looking at it under the microscope, to see what's in there and study Dr. Elaine Ingham. So if you want to go completely natural, if you want to go completely hippie, you use this. This is aloe. I cut this a little bit ago, that's why you see a little bit of the coloration. Now, what I'm going to do, I'll split it apart and take all the gel out of it. You can look into it. One of the main things that's in here is very important is salicylic acid. No, hold on, let me start over. One thing about the aloe is that it stores. Now, don't quote me on this because I just found this stuff on a forum. It was old hippie knowledge, and I did some research, but sometimes I'll take people's word for it. Now, the nutrients that are bioavailable are stored in this jelly. You see? So a typical plant has a whole bunch of millions of cell walls, where this is just one massive jelly substance. So I can feed this to my plants. I can even feed this to my aloe plant. Now, depending on the species of aloe, it is or is not edible. I think the yellow stuff is the sign of the latex, and that is what causes it to be expectorant has to do with diuretic has to do with liquids, causes diarrhea basically. So maybe expectorant, I forget. Anyways, let me get to the point. There's lots of nutrients and vitamins in here. It's good for plants and good for humans, but there's debates on whether or not it's safe for human consumption. Now, the old hippie trick, these are some plants that I'm rooting in a vanilla orchid. I know it looks kind of sickly, but it's it's getting there. I'll pull it out, hold on. See the roots forming? This is a vanilla orchid. So once the roots get adequate, I can plant it and then trim it up. And there is something in the aloe called salicylic acid. The same thing that is used in skincare products. Now, salicylic acid promotes rooting growth. So if I cut a little bit of this off, I'm not going to use this for the fertilizer, so I'll just cut this part off. I'll eventually change this water, but it's like time release fertilizer. I literally just drop it in there. And I do have to change the water, change it every few days when I'm rooting something. See how it's getting a little cloudy? I'll change the water after this presentation. But the salicylic acid will aid in the rooting. So basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to throw this stuff in here. Throw random amounts of that fertilizer in there. Get the bubbler going. And let it bubble for about an hour. I'll try and do this one-handed. Everybody has their own method of opening aloe. Just intuitively, the way I do it is I cut down in the larger part up here. I run my fingernail along the seam right there. And as it's opening, well, with two hands, I just move my thumb right along there. It's easier with two hands. And I get all this stuff up. And that is how to harvest the aloe. You can see inching along. Let me get that done. So here's the jelly with a little bit of each of the fertilizers. I tend to go on the lighter side in terms of not too much fertilizer, not too much additives. I like to be hands-off with what I do. I don't want to intervene. I don't want to intervene in the microbiome of the soil. I would prefer to do foliar feeding 24/7 in terms of that, and maybe just add a seasonal layer of compost. In other words, the soil is way more intelligent than any human being could be. So I'm going to put this in there. You can see the bubblers in there. As a general rule, keep the device above the bubbler. This is like a $20, $30 piece with $3 bucket and a food container from takeout. The aloe plant, I have multiple aloe plants, and they're good for many, many things. So let's put this little slurry in here, and I'll start the bubbler. I'll leave it bubbling for an hour, and I don't worry about poisoning my plants, because not only did I underdo the amounts, but I will underfeed the individual plants themselves. And then let me get this one. There you go. It's aerating. That's going to be annoying. I'm going to fix that. So that's how I make one way to make fertilizer. There's plenty of the best knowledge you'll find is on forums, and then cross-reference it with your own intuition.